it up for Cobus the Viking!
I'm Cobus Visser, it's Cobus with the C. Some call me the Viking. It's all about having courage, creating freedom, and leaving a legacy.
A very good day to you. This is that time where we talk about leaders are readers. And today's guest, oh boy, you are going to love our guest today because this man is the one and only Cobus Viking Visser. So, Cobus, welcome. It's great to have you on the show.
Hi, Dr. Anthony. Thank you for having me. I think we've been talking a while to do this, and I'm glad to be here at last.
Fantastic. But, before we get into this beautiful book that you've just written, I'd like to know, just explain to the guys, why do we all talk to you about you as Cobus Viking? Tell them.
Yeah, I think, it's all about my journey and history. And in 2022, I rebranded as the Viking. And part of the rebrand was to understand what the philosophy around the Vikings is. The Vikings have a lot of values, and part of my beliefs is system is everything. Our foundation is our values. And so I read a book by a gentleman from Denmark that wrote about the 9 virtues of the Vikings in business and in life, and that got me hooked to it. And then part of that, at the same time, there was the Viking series as well. It showed, and then my coach challenged me to just do a DNA analyst test, and I did it, and it showed me that I'm a part of it from Norway, Denmark, and Northern Germany. So I'm sort of in that Scandinavia area.
Well, I think it's only fair that I actually mention to the listeners that don't know my background, and that is that my ancestors come from Denmark, a little town called Tonderen, which was on the border of Denmark and Germany at the time. And that's where the Van Tonders hail from. That's obviously I'm Van Tonder, so Tonderen is where we hail from. They went from Denmark. A lot of times it was part of Germany, then Denmark, but it remained from a municipal area part of Denmark. And then my ancestors moved to the Netherlands. From there, came to South Africa. So somehow I've sort of was beating my chest about you and me today. Like, boy, I understand. The Vikings are together. Let's take this thing on. How do you feel about that one?
I feel good about that. And I think, to think about, we met about almost 10 years ago. So it's been a long journey.
Absolutely right. And I must say that the most uncomfortable exercise that I had to do in my leadership career, in terms which we called warrior, well, you were my counterpart, and you and I did an exercise together, which I hated to do, but it was part of my growth. So, Cobus, that really cemented us because you took it like on the chin because you knew this was part of my development. So I celebrate having been in the warrior race with you. I celebrate that you're a Viking, that we can talk the same language. But today, it's about helping other people understand that leaders are readers. And you've written the book, Walking Through Fire. What brought this book about?
So I climbed in Kilimanjaro in 2018, and I came back and I said, I'm going to write a book about my journey. So I wanted to write a book about my journey of climbing Kilimanjaro with my crutches. And coming back, it never happened. Life happened. It suddenly got busy, and then COVID hit, and then got busy again. And then I got rebranded 2022 when I turned 40. And then beginning of last year, a lot of things for me changed. The first 6 months was, even in my life of a motivational speaker and being positive, I was challenged again since 2018, where I went through a very dark hole and things just didn't work out. And I think one day I was sitting and I was reflecting, and I said to myself, I just lost a friend. And I was thinking about it, if I had to die today, people will just remember me maybe for a day, for a month, or 2, and then people are going to go on with their life and probably will then be forgotten for the rest of my life, for their lives. And I was thinking, what is something I have to leave behind? And one thing about the Viking is the legacy they've left behind that is still influencing the world today. So even though they're gone millenniums, they're still making a difference in the difference they've made in the world. And legacy is very important to me. And what is the one best way of leaving a legacy behind is by writing a book. And, that's why all of the knowledge and all of the stories can be captured together. So my whole journey started, okay, let me write a book that becomes part of my legacy that I can leave behind for my 2 boys. So my main focus was to leave something behind for my 2 boys that ended up being a book that I'm selling now to the public. But my main purpose was just to, if I had to die today, what am I leaving behind for my family and my future generation? And, if you think about it, Doc, if you could read a book today about your grandfather or great-grandfather's stories and lessons, how much that would have meant for you?
Absolutely, because that's actually priceless. You can't put a price to that. And I think the approach is right. I can't but help notice the antithesis in terms of climbing Kilimanjaro in the snow and walk through fire. I mean, snow and fire. So that really is like the North Pole to the South Pole. But let's just go back to that experience in terms of going up Kilimanjaro with basically walking sticks. Is that correct? What caused that? Because people listening would say that don't know you, would want to say, why would you have done that? What is the situation? Help them understand who's Cobus.
Yeah, Doc. I think people understand why I climbed Kilimanjaro with my crutches is that I was born as hemophiliac. And for those who don't know what hemophiliac is, it's a bleeder. It means blood doesn't clot. It's also known as the royal disease. So it comes right there from the royalty from Europe. Queen Victoria was the famous queen's sons that had hemophiliac. Tsar Nicholas from Russia. So as you can notice, it's sort of the Viking bloodline coming through that's challenging me. And I've lived it for my whole life. And what the bleeding has done over the years, it's sort of disformed my elbows. I don't have elbows anymore. I don't have ankles. I have to actually get all of them replaced, and I haven't done that yet. So that's had a big impact. Being in a wheelchair for 4 years at one point, and Kilimanjaro just became that part of the thing to challenge myself and power of the mind. And apart from the mind, the fire walking, and that's where the book comes from. Walking fire is an ultimate thing that have changed my life. I experienced that for the first time in 2011 with Hannes Dreyer. And I said to myself, I need to learn this and I need to share this experience with everyone.
Well, you make me think of the saying that nothing is impossible, but you turn it into impossible is nothing. I mean, because just to hear that testimony of total grit and perseverance in terms of getting that done and dusted, because you see, that was for nobody else. That was for Cobus Visser. That was for you to say, I can do this. If I put my mind to it, I can do anything. And I think that is literally where your professional speaking career, in a sense, was accelerated in terms of, but if I continue being a role model to others in terms of don't give up, push through, and that testimony of climbing Kilimanjaro with crutches became literally the turning point in terms of saying, if I can do it, you can do it. What's your excuse? Am I right in my assumption of what I read through out of the situation?
Yeah, I think it's part of the assumption. I think these experiences is what teaches us. So my main thing is in 2017 I went for a divorce and I lost a lot of earthly things as well. And so my main purpose actually, I read about a story about the famous racing driver from South Africa that passed away on Kilimanjaro. So my main purpose actually went up to Kilimanjaro to pass away, not to, because I was too coward to take my own life. So I thought, this is the easiest way of taking my life. I'm not fit enough, so I'm going to climb this mountain to die. Yet, if you want to meet God, go to a mountain. And so I had an awakening experience, a reborn experience. And, what you're speaking about, the perseverance and the pushing through, I think I learned that through the experience. Because I didn't die, I had to push through. I had to get to the top. I had to come down again all the way. And not only of that, that the climb is coming back to reality and facing all of the challenge that I had to still face. Finalizing the divorce, finalizing my life, and all of the challenges that I faced, that I had to learn this. And I think experiences teaches us a lot of things in the end of the day. And I think that's the thing is, when we sit down, reflect on your experiences, because those lessons make you stronger for your challenges ahead.
Well, I just want to refer last time to the Kilimanjaro in terms of statistics show that most people who die actually don't die going up, they go dying down. And so I'm very glad to hear that you've overcome that and that your main purpose for going actually was to say, is life worth it? But yet being on the mountain and meeting the creator of the universe to realize there is someone bigger than ourselves. I mean, that is just so encouraging. So on the way down, what was the difference in terms of your mindset of going up versus coming down? Just help us learn that from you.
Yeah, I think the down was like exactly what you said. I got altitude sickness, so I remember going down. I just couldn't walk anymore because I just couldn't breathe. And I remember praying, God, where are you? You know, why have you forsaken me? You know, you haven't come and get me. And they got worried, and they organized that all about 30 porters to come up to where I was, and they brought a stretcher, and they all made turns, and they motivated me to not give up, to keep breathing. And they put me on a stretcher. I'm very heavy, so they made turns, and they physically carried me down the mountain. They made sure that I didn't die there. So it's in a sense, my viewpoint is God sending up his angels to carry me down because it was not my time yet.
Well, as we speak about this creator of the universe, one thing I can tell you, his solution to a problem is always another person. And in your case, several people rallying around you saying, we're going to get this dude down because he has achieved the virtually impossible, like I said, and therefore they were all rallying around you because they were encouraged by what you achieved. So we encourage today to speak to you, Cobus, and obviously now your book, Walking Through Fire. I know that you've taken many people on an excursion in terms of their mindset and getting them to achieve the virtually impossible of walking on coals and walking across fire. Now, your book must have originated from seeing so many people do it over and over successful, looking at the people that have the fear before they do it. They get the encouragement, they get the mindset training, and eventually they do it, and then to celebrate with them. So I'm going to take it that there must be this parallel of how to win in life, in a sense, in terms of walking through fire. Am I correct in my assumption?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the other one is it's all about just taking that next step and just keep moving forward, you know. And your first step is usually the hardest step, you know, and you have to keep moving forward. And the thing is, where do you focus? Do you focus on the fire, or do you focus on just getting forward and having an aim? Because I remember even on Kilimanjaro, and when I looked down, I knew, okay, just take that next step. And then when I looked up, I had a goal of, I just want to get to that rock. So when I get to that rock, I look down again, I rest, and then I look up again, you know, just giving that next step. And I mean, you know, that's the lessons that we take away from, you know, from the firewalk, and then overcoming that fear. Look, danger is real, but fear is a choice in the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Like they said, you know, fear stands for false evidence appearing real. That's why so many people actually don't want to embrace it, because it really looks like they might die. Now, in terms of that looking forward and focusing on the goal, when you're talking about walking through fire, I can just, in my spiritual eye, see people standing. There's this, am I going to make it? Am I going to do it? And then, as you say, they focus on the person that's there ready to receive them, and they walk right across. Now, this book surely is aimed at having others not look at the obstacles of life, not looking at what's going to pull them down, but to look to the goal of why they are alive and what they could achieve. And I see this parallel that you brought in with walking through fire.
Yeah, and it's also a part of it, the learning from the lessons from my life. You know, it's all written in a sense of like a memoir of my journey of my life, and to be inspired through the stories of my life that I've shared. And I think that's what I want to leave people behind as well. You know, it's that sometimes we can learn from others and take it and make it part of our lives, and then challenge yourself that you know, you have this one life. And so, you know, there's two phrases in the book. One is about whatever it takes. So no excuses, no everything. And then the other one is live without regret. You know, you have this one life, so go live it without regretting something. And you know, and I think that's the two things that I want to leave people by. Do whatever it takes to get your dreams come true, and go and live without regret.
Well, as I say, you know, if the one place where it's got a lot of regret, and that would be the graveyard. So many people that are there with unborn dreams, unmet expectations, and they actually did not have what it takes to take them through. So I can literally see how your first statement of whatever it takes into that living without regrets, literally that these two become synonymous and actually becomes a unit in terms of helping people live life. Now, when people listen to this today and they're going to say, well, walking through fire, um, practicality, is it available as a hard copy, as a soft copy? Is it online? How do people get hold of your book? Let's get that out of the way, because we want to get their minds at rest.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Anthony. It's at the moment on Amazon, and it's in a few exclusive books and bargain books, and then it's directly from me. It's only a soft copy, so I don't have a hard copy one. Well, soft copy is sort of a hard copy, but I know what you mean. Yeah, just Google. So if you want a signed copy and a special copy from me, it's just order directly from me. Otherwise, you can just put in on the internet "Walking Through Fire" by Kobus Visser, and you will find multiple places that will be selling.
Okay, and for the people that actually want the book, they can just write an email to Kobus, which starts with a C, C-O-B-U-S, Kobus@kobusvisser.com. Am I right?
That's correct. And then I can just say if they want an Afrikaans copy or an English copy. So I even had it translated in Afrikaans, just for those. And some people love reading Afrikaans, and then they love reading the English. So yeah, whatever is your cup of tea.
It's the practicality of it. Okay, so if you take me through the book, I don't know if you have a copy available, just that the index is right in front of you. But I was just thinking, can you just take me that from your introduction, just give me sort of a shape of how did the chapters mount on top of each other until you get to the conclusion? That just for the people who want to read the book will understand where does it commence from and where does it go to?
Yeah, definitely. I think so just give people an example. So in the first part of it is, the foreword that's written by Robin Banks, and by the friend that started me on this journey, Hannes Dreyer. They changed my life. So these two people had a big impact on my life, and then a friend of mine that sponsored this journey with me, Eugene Haynes. Then I started, so as I said earlier, this was mainly a book for my sons, for my future. So I started with letters of my family, where I wrote the letter to my sons and to my parents. And, in my mind was as I was writing this as if I was passed away already. Okay. So this would be like they would read. Because the last part of the book is a eulogy for my life. So I end basically the book as with an eulogy that I had to read at my funeral. Yeah, then it's the beginning where I started with my life. Then I talk a little bit about the Viking and the Viking values. How come I'm a Viking? In the beginning it was the Superman brand, and then transitioned to the Viking. Then I talk about the philosophy around whatever it takes, and then live without regret. Then I share a story about lessons I've learned from my grandmother and my great-grandfather. For the listeners out there, my great-grandfather was the first president of South Africa. So what's the lessons that I learned from him, and inspiring to reach the same heights as that what he did. Then I talk a little bit about my childhood. Then I talk about dreams coming true. So one of my dreams was to play rugby, and because of me being hemophiliac, I can't play rugby. However, the dream came true that I ended up in working with the minds of rugby players. From, one of them I met on the journey. He still wears the whatever it takes band on his arm, and that changed his life. And he became a Springbok at the end of the day. And I worked with him. I worked with the Southern Kings. I worked with the Lions rugby team. I worked with the Eagles rugby team. So the dream came true in the end of the day. Then I share the people the power of the hug. Then my journey of Kilimanjaro. So it's a day-by-day journey of Kilimanjaro. Plus, luckily we did recordings on the mountain. So I transcribed the recordings to show people insight, between the shares, between the team, what happened on the mountain. Okay. Then I talk about where I'm now and where the team is after Kilimanjaro. Then I talk about what's the future lies. Then I have some letters that some of my friends wrote. The one is Dion Davids, that is the assistant Springbok coach. Baron Pizza, rugby player. A few of my other friends that are not famous, but a few friends that have written it. And then, then I talk about, I have 3 prophecies that kept me living. I went to church last year, when I started this journey, and 3 different churches, and it restored my faith and my purpose in my journey. 3 pastors that don't know me, that I've never met before, sort of said similar things. Luckily, I got the recording, so I transcribed and put it in the book. And it's not like really just for people out there, but it's for me to write down on my stars, to take on the prophecies that God has over my life. The one pastor said, he sees me working with fire. That fire comes with me, and I'm going to work with fire. And amazing, he doesn't know I work with fire.
Correct.
And I have to have a mic on my phone, and I'm going to be all over the country and the world, traveling and speaking on stages. And I've been doing that.
But let's
I
talk
think
about that. You know what? I'm going to interject and just talk about the reality of when you meet a person who doesn't know you from a bar of soap, they prophesy into your life, they use words that you know exactly this is for me, because they don't know me, they don't know this is what I do, and yet the moment he speaks about a fire through and around you, and yet you're helping people through fire walking, and the person doesn't know you, then you know this is real deal. They don't know you.
yes,
That's
they don't
fantastic.
know me at all. They don't even know how I speak on stages. So just having that confirmation in the end of the day, just showed me that there is a purpose and that I have something to live for. And having two others confirm that as well, that said similar things.
Mhm.
The second prophet said the same things. He sees fire, and I will work with fire. And I'm like, what's the chances of two of them saying similar things? And I'm like,
Yes,
it's amazing. So yeah, so
brilliant.
I got committed, and I'm gonna be honest. I think last year was a challenging year for me. Until about August this year, I was just, I think God took a lot of things away so that I could finish the book, because every quote that I would set out came back last minute, either cancelled or not accepted. I had no business for a year. Until August, basically, I just survived easily. And the only thing that I could do and keep my mind busy was to write this book and put it together. And the moment I did the final book launch on the 14th of August,
Yeah.
things just exploded. It went from where for the last 4 months, well, August, September, October, November, things changed. I got a new girlfriend in my life. I traveled about 3 countries already, and it's just been. I can't take a brief, but I think the main thing is through this journey is that I prayed for this. So I'm very grateful. I'm not complaining. I'm actually grateful that things have changed and that God is
But
blessing
isn't
me.
that true how we basically get forced through circumstance? If you think about it, if in that period where you just couldn't find gigs or talks and what have you, and you kept on having cancellation after cancellation, you know, what was intended for bad then turned out to be good. You know what I'm saying? And that is that
Yeah.
then you were able to focus on writing your book because that change brought focus. Because if you were busy with speaking and traveling, what have you, would you ever have written a book with such clarity and focus? I would dare to say the answer was no, but it forced you to focus.
I agree with you, and I think, and that's the feedback that I get from people is that it's that they are inspired and that it's an easy read. And I'm very authentic in the book. I'm very open. I'm very vulnerable in the book the stuff that I share. So and I think that is what stuff for me. In the end of the day was to open up myself this way. And I said, I have nothing to lose. This is what I'm leaving behind. If I had to die today, what am I leaving behind?
See, that's one of the things that I think makes great leaders is being willing to be vulnerable for when it counts. Not to just have all your dirty laundry out there, but to be vulnerable to encourage people to the true reality that life happens. Because here's the thing, everybody thinks we live this fairy tale that life just keeps on going on and nothing's going to go wrong. Well, we get tested when life goes wrong. In fact, we get tested, our faith gets tested, and obviously our vision of the future gets tested. Now, you kept on talking about purpose. I can see this thin line of thread that goes through your life in terms of what's my purpose. Because when you came down that mountain, you made it. You clearly said that your purpose was renewed. You wrote this book, your purpose was renewed. You met your new girlfriend, your purpose was uh, can I say, reappropriated. Everything just came into clearer focus because certain things that happened. So talk to me about what role does purpose play in your heart and in your vision for the future?
I think purpose is part of waking up and getting up. It's what gets you moving. I want to get on top of the mountain. Purpose is like a vision. I think the word of God says, when you lack vision, you will perish. And I think that's the thing is purpose for me is, where you're going. Why do you wake up every day? And I think I don't think people realize the importance of it. My whole life I've suffered with mental health challenges because of always being in pain, waking up in pain, sleeping in pain. And it takes a lot of effort and energy in myself to keep myself motivated most of the time. And the only thing that gets me going is my purpose and not to give up. And that's the mountain I need to get to. And I look down, what's the next step that I need to take? And that's, that's all that I have to focus on.
You know, if I look at what you've gone through, and I find it so inspirational, but I also need to understand that there's a journey in your head and there's a journey in your heart. You know, we talk about the head, heart, hands principle, and that is so many people falter because they take it from their head straight to their hands, and it's short-lived because there's just no real connection. But the people that can take things from their head and they drop it through their heart, which is the ethos of their human being, then to the hands, it somehow then accompanies purpose. Now, in your mind, walking through fire, if I had to say, what are the three things that you want your readers to take out of it? I already know whatever it takes. I already know live without regret. But what are the subtle Cobus Viking Visser messages that you hope people will take out of this book?
To have more courage and in their life, to not be scared, to tap in courage, energy, to take on the difficult task and not sit home and trying to protect everything. The second is that you have the power to create your destiny and the freedom of the life that you want. Sometimes not exactly the way you want. Like, for example, I wanted to play rugby, but I couldn't, and I could have this excuse, but I ended up being part of the rugby team just in a different way. So that dream still came true. So you have the power to create the destiny and your freedom of your life. I mean, the third thing, and I spoke about this a few times, is what is the legacy you're leaving behind? It's, who are you going to impact? How are you going to impact people that when you're not here anymore, that your legacy lives on? And my challenges with most people is to go and write your story. I think I ended up with a few sentences in the book that speaks about it's now your turn to write your story. So go write your story and leave something behind for your future generations, that they don't have to repeat the same mistakes, but they can be inspired. But wow, this is where I come from. Because the moment you know your past, you learn from your past, and you're not destined to repeat it.
Well, Cobus, I'm pretty sure that our listeners today are just going, what a wonderful person to meet, a man with a real story, a man with a real story of encouragement, and literally courage through fire, in a sense. So I want to thank you for the time that you've taken to be here today. I want to say to our listeners, remember, leaders are readers. And if there's one book that you want to read, can you just hold up that book for me, please, Cobus, if you don't mind? This is the book I'd like you to read, and it's Walking Through Fire, written by the Viking Cobus Visser himself. And guys, this book is available on Amazon.com at Exclusive Books. But if you want it directly from Cobus, you're just going to go to Cobus@cobusvisser.com. And remember that Cobus is with a C, and that's how you'll get hold of him. And I just want to thank you for imparting value. I happen to cross-pollinate with you on legacy, and because it's my program, I'm just going to say to the readers, please get hold of my website, which is called growthhabits.com, and look for the book, 7 Ways to Leave a Generational Legacy. In fact, How to Leave a 7-Generational Legacy is the ebook that I've written. So, you know what, Cobus, I just know that next time you and I speak, maybe we should speak on legacy, because it feels that we walk through the waters and the fire in the same way. And I want to thank you for today. What is your last message to the people listening there, looking you in the eyes and say, Cobus, speak to them?
And first, I want to first honor you to say thank you for your patience and your persistence, my friend, and I appreciate that. Last thing that I want to leave people behind is a quote by Gandhi that says, everything starts with a belief. To challenge your beliefs and not just accept for every belief, because your beliefs then become your thoughts. As a man thinketh, so will he be. So start thinking differently. That will then impact your words, as life and death is the power of the tongue. So what words are you speaking, not only to yourself, but to others on a daily basis? Because your words are then followed by your actions. Your actions will either be courageous or be more in fear. So be careful and conscious about, what actions you are taking. And then these actions then become habits. Look at your daily habits. What are you doing on a daily basis? Because that is creating your reality. And then your habits become your values. And I think it's important for you to know your values, because you attract similar type of people in your life with similar values. So if you don't want to change that, change your values. And before you know it, you've created the destiny. So yeah, just want to leave that. And it's a quote that was written by Mahatma Gandhi.
No one can say that better than you. We so appreciate you. So let's live a life that will reflect our values and do it in such a way that we can leave a legacy. And if you have to, walk through the fire, because remember, you've got whatever it takes, and live a life without regret, quote unquote, Quibus Viking Visser. I thank you, my friend. God bless you. It was great to have you here.